If the original consciousness is invisible, then it's completely dark before it had light, because it had to think of the light from the dark. And darkness would be the absence of light. So therefore, the original thought was in the complete dark. And as that dark expanded into light, light had thought more than that dark, because the light gave the dark more to think about. So all dark had to do was look inside itself and find light. Now that may sound weird, but what other explanation could you come up with from light going to dark or dark going to light? Either way, the absence of dark would be light, or the absence of light would be dark. So the initial thought was that empty. And particles, even though we're people who think like people, we can't possibly think like a particle. But particles had to, maybe not think, but coagulate, start moving, start acting. And in order to start acting, it's a form of thought. That's that universal thought. And since darkness was the only first thought, as soon as any creation was made of the darkness, out of the darkness into the light, or of the light into the darkness, out of the light to the darkness, whatever, any of those instances, any of those things was given a tiny bit less of the original, but a tiny bit more than the original. So therefore it is the original, but it's allowed to look back at the original and say, hey, I'm different. But it's not. It's the original, looking at itself from light to dark. Boom. That's one tiny, tiny instance. That light and dark doesn't mean this huge sky full of light and this huge sky full of dark. It means this little tiny, infinitely tiny, whatever, or infinitely huge dark spot with a little blip of light that appears, or an infinitely huge light with a tiny dark spot that appears. Blip. And from that point on, everything had to expand in some kind of sensible way. We sense our 5 senses, we say 6 or 7, we're infinite. We're just infinite. We talk a lot of talk, and we say a bunch of words, and they make sense, and people will agree that we have 5 senses, and they'll say that we have 5 fingers and 5 toes, and then some people will say, well, one's a thumb. So nothing is accurate. They're just words that we're using to try to talk to ourselves all the time. All the time, no matter who you're talking to, you're trying to explain something to another version of another thing that's alive from the original, trying to understand itself. When that happens and you get that completely, you realize that although we're doing these things and they seem so real, so yes, they're physical, but they're not real per se because they're not necessary. In order for you to live, you don't need any of the stuff we're doing, especially not all the time. You don't need water all the time. You don't need food all the time. You don't need anything all the time. But on some level, you need certain things some of the time, because what do you have right there in every one of those sentences? Time. So time is a concept thought of by way more conscious, but less contemplative beings. Things that are beings. Things that are. If it is, it's being. So if there's light, it's a light being. If there's water, it's a water being. If it's ground, it's a ground being. So when I talk about soil beings and stuff like that in the future, or beings of spirit, spirit is out there. So spirit is everywhere. Spirit is in you, in your cells, in that plastic bag. So you can look at it and it can reflect back at you. There's some kind of spirit, some kind of light, some kind of hue, some kind of color on it. Hue man. You manage hue. You manage color with your eyes. And you tell yourself where you live with words. So you literally explain your world with word. Between the W and the D, W is wonder, D is dominion or decision. And we'll say it's wonder or decision, or wonder or dominion, or wish or domain, like word. And then you put an L in there, and it's what you literally talk about. And the earth is what you hear about. So you don't really see the earth except for other big descriptions from outside it, looking back at it. And what are you doing beside yourself? You're having everyone that's not you looking back at you, telling you about you, till you look in a mirror and you go, who am I? Who am I really? That mirror doesn't tell you anything. Deep down inside yourself is something way more magnificent than that you will start understanding soon, and it's going to blow your mind. something that never happened and couldn't have happened before now. That's why it seems to be so unreal and so impossible, because it wasn't yet, but now it is. Because as we grow and as we evolve, this kind of thing happens. And we understand that we don't need the governments we used to have. And the governments themselves will understand they don't need to be there anymore, because they're just causing more problem than any good. What we need to do is start working on ourselves individually in our families, because that's what we have them for, so we can do it on a small level. And then we work on communities, and then we work on togetherness. We can't do it from a whole big perspective, like one person in charge saying, everybody do this, and then everyone blames it on them if it goes wrong. You can't do that. You have to do it at your house. You have to do it in your home. You have to do it first within yourself. And if you have younger ones who can't do it yet, that's where you have to learn somewhat at the same time right now. But that's what makes it difficult at this point. As it goes on and we start teaching our children this from the beginning, it will be so much more easy. And there won't be so many people out of control. There won't be as many problems. And when we believe that and know that, it won't be a problem anymore. The problem really is that we're stressing out and scaring ourselves with what if. And those what ifs always come true because our minds are creative. We learn that and we save ourselves. Until we learn that, we keep putting ourselves in this pit of despair. Despair is right inside your head. Freedom is right inside your head. Heaven and hell, same. We're here to learn, and I'm here, yes, to teach, if that's what you want to call it. But to just reveal the truth is more like it. So, until next time, guys, I love you so much. Peace.